The stars looked different in the outer rim. Captain Tholvan stood on the bridge of the Dawnbreaker, his 6 sensory appendages processing the data streaming across multiple screens. His ship had been exploring uncharted systems for 3 months, mapping worlds that no one in the Varen Consortium had ever seen. It was routine work, usually boring, but today something felt different. "Captain, I'm detecting unusual energy signatures on the 4th planet," said First Officer Kryn, his young voice carrying a hint of excitement. "The readings don't match anything in our database." Tholvan moved closer to the scanning station, his experience telling him that unusual meant either treasure or trouble. "What kind of energy signatures?" "Fusion reactors, sir. Multiple sources. And electromagnetic emissions consistent with communications technology." Kryn looked up from his console, his large eyes wide with surprise. "Captain, someone lives down there." Dr. Ixara clicked her mandibles together, a sign of interest among her insectoid species. The xenoarchaeologist had been hoping for something interesting on this expedition. "There are no records of any colony in this sector. The consortium's expansion never reached this far." "Exactly," Tholvan said quietly. He made a decision quickly, as he always did. "Take us into orbit. Careful approach. If someone is down there, I don't want to scare them." The Dawnbreaker descended toward the planet, which they designated Haven 7 in their logs. The world was beautiful from orbit, with blue oceans and green continents. Clouds swirled in familiar patterns. It looked like a garden world, the kind that supported life easily. As they got closer, the scanners revealed more details. Cities dotted the largest continent. Roads connected them in organized networks. Agriculture covered vast areas of land. This was not a small outpost. This was a civilization. "Population estimate is coming in," Kryn reported. "I'm reading approximately 2 million life signs, all concentrated in urban centers." "Captain, this is a full colony, but whose colony?" Dr. Ixara asked the question everyone was thinking. "No species in the consortium has settlements this far out. Could it be an unknown species?" Tholvan studied the images appearing on the main screen. The architecture was strange, unlike anything he had seen before. Buildings rose in elegant curves, combining what looked like metal and stone. Solar panels covered many roofs. Wind turbines turned on hillsides. "Hail them. Let's introduce ourselves." The communications officer worked his console for several minutes before shaking his head. "They're not responding to standard consortium frequencies, sir. But I am detecting their internal communications. The language is unknown. Keep trying," Tholvan ordered. "Use all first contact protocols." It took another hour before they received a response. The voice that came through the speakers spoke in a language the computer could not translate, but there was something about it that sounded almost familiar to Tholvan. His grandmother had been a historian who studied extinct species. She had made him listen to recordings of dead languages as a child. "Computer, run that through historical linguistics database," he said. "Check extinct languages." The computer worked for 30 seconds. Then a word appeared on the screen that made everyone on the bridge go silent. "Human." "That's impossible," Kryn whispered. "Humans have been extinct for 400 years. Dr. Ixara moved closer to the screen, her compound eyes reflecting the light. The great silence. Every human world went dark at the same time. No distress calls, no warnings. They just vanished. The consortium investigated for decades but found nothing. Empty cities, abandoned ships, but no bodies and no survivors. "Until now," Tholvan said. He felt his heart's beating faster. This was the discovery of a lifetime, maybe the discovery of the century. "Translate our message into human language and send it again. Tell them we come in peace and request permission to land." The response came quickly this time, and the computer translated it. "Permission granted. Land at the coordinates we are transmitting. Welcome to New Scylla." The landing site was on the outskirts of the largest city. As the Dawnbreaker descended through the atmosphere, the crew could see the city spreading below them. It looked clean and organized, with parks and green spaces between buildings. People moved through the streets, though at this height they were just small dots. A delegation waited for them at the landing pad. Tholvan led his team down the ramp, taking his first steps on Haven 7. The air smelled fresh, with hints of flowers and vegetation. The gravity felt comfortable, close to Varen standard. The humans stood in a line, watching them approach. Tholvan studied them carefully. They looked exactly like the historical records showed. 2 arms, 2 legs, bilateral symmetry, hair on their heads. But something was different. They stood with perfect posture, completely still, their eyes tracking every movement the Varen team made. There was an alertness about them that seemed almost predatory. The man in the center stepped forward. He was older, with gray in his hair, but he moved with smooth confidence. "I am Governor Day. Welcome to New Scylla. We have been alone for a long time. It is strange to see other faces." Tholvan touched his chest in the Varen gesture of respect. "I am Captain Tholvan of the exploration vessel Dawnbreaker. This is First Officer Kryn and Dr. Ixara. We did not expect to find anyone here, especially not humans. We thought your species was extinct." "Many of us are," Governor Day said quietly. "But not all. Please come. We have much to discuss." The woman next to Governor Day was introduced as Commander Hana, head of Colonial Defense. She was younger, with sharp eyes that never stopped scanning for threats. The other woman was Dr. Bora, their chief scientist. She looked excited to meet Dr. Ixara, immediately starting to ask questions about Varen biology. They walked toward the city, and Tholvan noticed more details. The humans moved with unusual grace. When a child dropped a ball and it rolled toward them, Commander Hana caught it without looking, her hand moving in a blur of speed. She handed it back to the child with a smile, but Tholvan's sensory appendages had caught the movement. That was not normal human reflex speed. The city was impressive. Clean streets, efficient design, happy people. But there were also defensive walls, weapons emplacements on tall buildings, and soldiers on patrol. This was a civilization that expected trouble. "You have built something remarkable here," Dr. Ixara said as they walked. "How long has this colony existed?" 412 years, Governor Day replied. "Our ancestors crashed here during the Great Silence. The ship was damaged beyond repair. They had no choice but to stay and build a new life. And you have had no contact with any other species in all that time?" Tholvan asked. "None. We thought we might be the last humans alive. We thought we were the last of anything alive out here." Governor Day stopped and turned to face them. "Captain, I must ask you something important. The galaxy you come from, the consortium you represent, what would they do if they learned about us?" The question hung in the air. Tholvan knew it was important, but he did not yet understand why. "The consortium would welcome you. Lost colonies are rare but not unheard of. You would be offered membership, trade agreements, technology exchange." "Even if we are different?" Governor Day asked. "Different how?" Commander Hana moved then. One moment she was standing still. The next she was 10 meters away, having crossed the distance faster than Tholvan's eyes could track. She returned just as quickly, holding a leaf she had plucked from a tree. "Different like that," Governor Day said quietly. "This planet tried to kill us for 300 years. We adapted to survive. All of us carry modifications now. We are faster, stronger, and harder to kill than the humans you remember from your history books. The question is, Captain, does that make us monsters or survivors?" Tholvan looked at the 3 humans standing before him. He thought about his grandmother's stories of humanity, of their creativity and determination. He thought about the city around them, built from nothing on a hostile world. He thought about 400 years of isolation and struggle. "I think," he said slowly, "that makes you remarkable. But I also think the answer to that question may determine the future of your colony, and possibly your species." Governor Day nodded. "Then we should talk. There is much you need to understand about what happened to humanity and why we are here. Come, let me show you our history. You may not like all of it, but you need to know the truth." As they walked deeper into the city, Tholvan felt the weight of discovery settling on his shoulders. He had come looking for rocks and ruins. Instead, he had found a secret that could change the galaxy. The question was whether that change would be for better or worse. The Archives building stood at the center of New Scylla, a structure of white stone and metal that reached toward the sky. Governor Day led them through corridors lined with displays showing the colony's history. Tholvan stopped at each one, trying to understand the story they told. "It began 412 years ago," Governor Day said, standing before a large screen that showed an image of a massive ship. "This was the Eternal Hope, a colony vessel carrying 50,000 humans in cryosleep. It was one of dozens that left Earth during the Great Silence." "What was the Great Silence?" Kryn asked, leaning forward to study the ship's design. Dr. Bora touched a control panel, and the screen changed to show Earth, the blue and green world that had been humanity's home. We don't know all the details. Our records from that time are incomplete, but we know that something attacked all human worlds simultaneously. Communications cut off everywhere at once. The colony ships that escaped did so in chaos with minimal planning. The screen showed the eternal hope racing through space, pursued by dark shapes that the image quality made hard to see. Our ship was damaged in the escape. The captain was a man named Taiwan. According to the logs, he made a decision to use an emergency jump, even though the navigation system was failing. He knew it might send them anywhere, but staying meant death. The jump sent them here, Tholvan said, understanding. Not exactly here, Governor Day corrected. The jump failed halfway through. It threw them out of hyperspace at the edge of this system. The ship had no fuel for another jump. The engines were dying. Captain Taiwan had one choice: try to reach the only habitable planet in the system. The screen showed the ship entering Haven 7's atmosphere, flames trailing behind it. The landing was not controlled. The ship broke apart as it came down. Of the 50,000 people on board, only 12,000 survived the crash. Dr. Ixara clicked her mandibles softly, a sound of sorrow. So few. It got worse, Dr. Bora said quietly. She changed the image to show the colonists emerging from the wreckage into a new world. Haven 7 looked beautiful, but it was deadly. The plants were toxic to humans. The water needed extensive treatment. The weather was extreme, and the wildlife was actively hostile. The next image showed a creature that made even Tholvan step back. It was massive, easily 4 meters tall, with 6 legs ending in claws and a mouth filled with teeth designed for tearing. We call them rippers. They hunted in packs. They were fast, smart, and they saw humans as prey. Commander Hana spoke for the first time since they entered the archives. In the first year, the rippers killed 3,000 colonists. The survivors built walls, but the rippers learned to climb them. They made weapons, but bullets only made the rippers angry unless you hit vital organs. The colonists were dying faster than they could reproduce. Governor Day moved to another display, this one showing a woman with determined eyes and blood-stained clothes. This was Jiwoo, the leader who emerged after Captain Taiwan died fighting a ripper that broke into the command center. She organized the survivors into a military structure. Every person had a job. Every resource was controlled. It was harsh, but it kept people alive. For a time, Dr. Bora added. But even with organization, the population kept falling. By year 50, only 7,000 humans remained. By year 75,000. The projections were clear. Within another generation, humanity would be extinct on Haven 7. The screen changed again, showing a laboratory with people in white coats gathered around equipment. Year 93. A scientist named Minya proposed a radical solution. If humans could not survive on Haven 7 as they were, then they needed to change. She suggested genetic modification. Tholvan felt his sensory appendages twitch with concern. Genetic modification was heavily regulated in the consortium. Most species considered it dangerous, a path that led to instability and conflict. The debate lasted for months, Governor Day said. Some colonists thought it was playing God. Others thought it was necessary evolution. But in the end, survival won. They began with small changes. Denser bones to prevent breaks, faster healing to recover from injuries, enhanced vision to spot rippers in the dark. And the modifications worked? Dr. Ixara asked. Yes, Commander Hana said. But they could not modify the adults. The changes had to be made to children before birth, coded into their DNA. So the first generation of enhanced children were born in year 98. My great-great-grandfather was one of them. The screen showed images of children growing up, playing, learning to fight. They moved with unusual grace even as youngsters. As those children grew, the death rate from ripper attacks dropped. The enhanced humans could react faster, fight harder, survive injuries that would kill unmodified humans. For the first time in a century, the population began to grow instead of shrink. But they did not stop with the first modifications, Tholvan said, understanding where this was going. No, Dr. Bora confirmed. Each generation received additional enhancements. Stronger muscles, more efficient organs, enhanced cognitive processing. By the 5th generation, the humans of New Scylla were significantly different from baseline humanity. Governor Day walked to a window that looked out over the city. I am 7th generation enhanced. My grandfather was one of the first children born with the complete modification package. He could run 50 kilometers without stopping. He could see in almost complete darkness. He lived to be 140 years old and was still healthy when he died in an accident. And you? Tholvan asked. What can you do? Day smiled slightly. I am not as fast as Commander Hana. She is optimized for combat roles, but I can process information faster than any computer we have built. I can read a 1,000-page document in an hour and remember every word. I can solve complex mathematical equations in my head. And yes, I could fight a Ripper one-on-one and have a reasonable chance of winning. Kryn looked uncomfortable. This is exactly the kind of genetic manipulation the Consortium forbids. It creates super soldiers, individuals who are no longer part of their original species. We are still human, Commander Hana said sharply. We think like humans. We feel like humans. We dream and love and fear like humans. We are just better at surviving. But would the Consortium see it that way? Governor Day asked. That is what worries me, Captain. You seem like a reasonable person. Your crew seems open-minded. But what about your government? What about the species that make up the Consortium? How will they react when they learn that humanity survived by becoming something more than human? Tholvan did not have a good answer. He knew that the Consortium Council included species that feared genetic modification. There were entire political factions dedicated to maintaining genetic purity. The discovery of an entire colony of modified humans would cause panic in some quarters. I will not lie to you, he said finally. This will be controversial. Some will call you an abomination. Others will see you as a threat. There will be calls to quarantine your world, maybe even to destroy it. The humans exchanged glances but did not look surprised. We expected as much, Governor Day said. That is why we have always had defenses, why we have always prepared for the day someone found us. We hoped it would be peaceful contact, but we planned for war. Dr. Bora called up another set of images on the screen. We have been studying the wreckage of our colony ship for 400 years. We have learned things, built things. Our technology is different from what you describe of the Consortium, but it is not primitive. The images showed weapons, ships, defensive systems. Tholvan recognized some of the principles behind them, but the implementations were unique. These humans had been isolated for centuries, but they had not stopped advancing. We do not want war, Governor Day said firmly. We want to live in peace. We want to rejoin the galaxy, to trade and share knowledge. But we will not allow our people to be destroyed because we chose to survive. If the Consortium comes with weapons, we will defend ourselves. It may not come to that, Dr. Ixara said thoughtfully. Captain, what if we presented this as a case study in adaptive evolution? The humans faced extreme environmental pressure and responded with biological adaptation. Many species in the Consortium have modified themselves to survive on hostile worlds. Not to this extent, Kryn argued. And not with military applications. Captain, we need to report this. The Council needs to make the decision, not us. Tholvan knew Kryn was right according to regulations, but he also knew that reporting this immediately could doom the colony. The Council would send a fleet before asking questions. By the time diplomacy happened, people would be dead. I need time to think, he said. Governor, would you allow us to stay for a few days? To learn more about your colony, to understand your culture? If I am going to report this, I want to give the Council the complete picture, not just data and fear. Governor Day looked relieved. Of course. We will show you everything. You can tour our cities, meet our people, see how we live. We have nothing to hide. As they left the archives, a young human man approached them. He looked nervous but excited. Governor, I am Sung from the Communications Center. I heard that we have alien visitors. I study xenolinguistics. Could I possibly speak with them? 3 days had passed since the Dawnbreaker arrived at Haven 7. Tholvan spent each day learning about the colony, talking with people, watching how they lived. The humans were not monsters. They were farmers and teachers, artists and engineers. They laughed at jokes, played with their children, and worried about ordinary things like everyone else. But they were also different. He watched a construction worker catch a falling beam that would have crushed a normal person. He saw a doctor perform surgery with hands that moved with impossible precision. He observed children in school processing complex mathematics that would challenge adult Viren scholars. The modifications were everywhere, woven into every aspect of their society. And yet they remained recognizably human in the ways that mattered. They were kind to strangers. They valued family and friendship. They created art and music that touched his hearts. On the 4th morning, Dr. Bora invited Dr. Ixara to her laboratory. Tholovan came along, curious about what the human scientist wanted to share. The lab was underground, built into the rock beneath the city. Security was tight, with armed guards at every checkpoint. What you are about to see is classified at the highest level, Dr. Bora said as they entered the main research area. Only the governor, the military command, and senior scientists know the full truth. I am sharing it with you because I believe you need to understand what really happened to humanity. She led them to a containment chamber with thick walls of transparent material. Inside, mounted on a frame, was a piece of technology unlike anything Tholovan had seen before. It was dark metal, almost black, with lines of light running through it in patterns that hurt to look at. This is a fragment from a devourer probe, Dr. Bora said quietly. A what? Dr. Ixara asked, moving closer to study the artifact. That is what we call them. The machines that destroyed humanity. Dr. Bora pulled up files on a computer screen. When the Eternal Hope crashed here, the ship's main computer was damaged but not destroyed. We recovered it and spent decades reconstructing the data. What we found explained the Great Silence. The screen showed images recorded by sensors on Earth and other human worlds. Dark shapes appeared in space around every major human colony simultaneously. Ships, if they could be called that. Massive constructs of metal and energy that did not match any known design. They attacked without warning, Dr. Bora continued. No communication, no demands, no mercy. They struck military targets first, then population centers. Their weapons were beyond anything humanity had at the time. Cities burned. Orbital defenses fell. Within a week, every major human world was under attack. Tholovan watched the images with growing horror. He had studied the Great Silence as a historical curiosity, a mystery that scholars debated. He had never imagined it was genocide. Earth's government sent out colony ships in desperation, Dr. Bora said. Dozens of them, loaded with as many people as they could carry. Most were destroyed before they could escape. A few, like the Eternal Hope, made it out. We believe we are the only one that survived long enough to establish a colony. But why? Dr. Ixara asked. Why would machines attack humanity? What did your species do to provoke this? Nothing, Dr. Bora said. That is what makes it so terrifying. According to the data we recovered, the Devourers are an ancient machine intelligence. They may be millions of years old. Their purpose is to eliminate biological civilizations that show potential for rapid advancement. They identify species that might eventually become threats and destroy them before that can happen. Humanity was targeted because you were advancing too fast, Tholovan said, understanding. Exactly. In just a few thousand years, humans went from primitive tool use to spaceflight. In a few hundred more, we had spread to dozens of worlds. The Devourers saw the trajectory and acted to eliminate the threat. Dr. Bora touched the containment chamber. We found this probe in the wreckage of our ship. It had attached itself to the hull, probably trying to track us. Our scientists have been studying it for 3 centuries. What have you learned? Dr. Ixara asked, her scientific curiosity overcoming her shock. That they are adaptable, that they learn and evolve, that they are still out there. Dr. Bora pulled up more data. We have detected their energy signatures 3 times in the past 100 years. Brief pulses at the edge of the system. They are searching, hunting, looking for any humans they might have missed. The implications hit Tholovan like a physical blow. And now we have come here, in a ship that is broadcasting consortium identification signals. If these Devourers are monitoring this region of space, they will know humanity survived, Dr. Bora finished. Yes, that is one of our fears. The other fear is what the consortium will do when they learn the truth. You think the council will not believe you? I think some members of the council might decide we are not worth the risk, Governor Day said, entering the laboratory. Commander Hana was with him, along with several military officers. If the Devourers are real and as dangerous as we believe, the logical response is to eliminate the evidence that humanity still exists. That means destroying New Scylla and everyone on it. Tholovan wanted to argue, but he could not. There were species in the consortium who would make exactly that calculation. Better to sacrifice one colony than risk drawing the attention of an ancient machine intelligence that could threaten the entire galaxy. Captain, Commander Hana said, her voice tense, we have a more immediate problem. Your first officer has been transmitting data to your ship without authorization. Our monitoring systems detected encrypted burst transmissions. Kryn. Tholovan felt anger and disappointment wash over him. When? The transmission started yesterday. We did not want to cause an incident, so we trace them instead of stopping them. She pulled up a display showing data streams. He has been sending everything. Our population, our defenses, our genetic modifications, everything. And your ship has been relaying those transmissions to Consortium Space, Governor Day added. By now your high command knows about us. They will be deciding what to do. Tholvan activated his communicator. Dawnbreaker, this is Captain Tholvan. Kryn, report to me immediately. There was a long pause before Kryn's voice came through. Captain, I am on the ship. I cannot leave right now. That was an order, First Officer. I know, sir, and I apologize. But I have a duty to the Consortium that supersedes your orders. This colony represents a threat that must be reported and addressed. Before Tholvan could respond, alarms began blaring throughout the laboratory. Soldiers rushed to stations, pulling up displays and checking weapons. Commander Hana's expression went from tense to grim. What is it? Tholvan demanded. Long-range sensors, she said, pointing to a screen that showed the edge of the Haven 7 system. We have contacts. Multiple ships entering the system. The Consortium fleet? Governor Day asked. No, Dr. Bora whispered, staring at her own screen with wide eyes. The energy signatures are wrong. Captain, do you have any ships in the Consortium that use dark matter reactors? No, that technology does not exist. No species we know has developed it. Dr. Bora looked at them with fear in her eyes. Then these are not Consortium ships. The energy signatures match the profile from the probe. Captain, the Devourers are here. The next hour was chaos. The colony went to full alert. Civilians evacuated to underground shelters. Military forces mobilized to defensive positions. The orbital defense platforms that Tholvan had seen from space powered up, revealing themselves to be far more sophisticated than he had realized. In the command center beneath the city, Governor Day coordinated the response with calm efficiency. Screens showed the Devourer fleet approaching, 12 massive vessels that looked like they had been grown rather than built. They moved with purpose, ignoring the Dawnbreaker entirely, and heading straight for Haven 7. They know we are here, Commander Hana said. They came specifically for us. How? Dr. Ixara asked. You said you detected their sensors before. Did they find you? No, Sung said from a communications console. The young man looked terrified but focused. I traced the transmissions. The Devourers intercepted First Officer Kryn's broadcasts. They used a signal to locate us. Tholvan felt sick. Kryn's determination to report the colony had doomed it. I need to get back to my ship. Kryn needs to be stopped before he does more damage. You will never make it in time, Commander Hana said. The Devourers will be in weapons range in 30 minutes. Your ship will be the first thing they destroy. As if to confirm her words, a new contact appeared on the screens. A Consortium fleet, jumping into the system on the opposite side of the planet. Admiral Vexthor's battle group responding to Kryn's reports. This just got worse, Governor Day said quietly. Now we have 2 fleets in our system. One wants to quarantine us, the other wants to exterminate us. Tholvan looked at the screens, at the approaching threats, at the humans preparing to defend their home against impossible odds. He thought about his grandmother's stories of humanity, of their stubborn refusal to give up even when defeat was certain. Governor, he said, you have defended this planet for 400 years. You have survived everything this world could throw at you, but you cannot fight both fleets alone. You need help. Admiral Vexthor stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Relentless, watching 3 sets of contacts converge on Haven 7. His battle group of 16 ships had entered the system expecting to find an illegal colony of genetically modified humans. What he had found instead was a nightmare scenario that would require impossible decisions. The Dawnbreaker's captain had sent him a message that seemed insane. Ancient machine intelligences that hunted civilizations. A genocidal attack on humanity 400 years ago. A threat to all biological life in the galaxy. It sounded like the ravings of someone who had been compromised or manipulated, except the sensor data supported the story. The 12 ships approaching from deep space used technology that matched no known species. Their energy signatures were wrong. Their propulsion systems impossible according to Consortium physics. And they were moving with clear hostile intent. Admiral, the unknown fleet is accelerating, his tactical officer reported. They will be in weapons range of the planet in 20 minutes. They are ignoring us completely. What about the Dawnbreaker? Vexthor asked. Still in orbit. Captain Tholvan is requesting permission to return to his ship. The colonists have been preventing him, claiming it is too dangerous. Vexthor studied the tactical display. If this was truly a threat to all biological life, then the protocols were clear. Protect life first, sort out politics later. But if this was an elaborate deception by the colony to avoid consortium justice, he could be making a catastrophic mistake. Hail the lead unknown vessel, he ordered. Standard first contact protocols. They tried every frequency, every communication method in the consortium database. The unknown ships did not respond. They simply continued their approach, weapons charging, targeting systems focusing on Haven 7. Admiral, we are being hailed by the colony, the communications officer said. Governor Day requests to speak with you. Put him through. The screen showed a human male, older but fit, standing in what looked like a military command center. Around him, humans worked at stations with focused intensity. Admiral Vexthor, I am Governor Day of New Scylla. Thank you for taking my call. Governor, what exactly am I looking at? Vexthor demanded. Captain Tholvan claims those ships belong to an ancient machine intelligence. His report reads like science fiction. I wish it was fiction, Day said grimly. Admiral, 400 years ago those machines destroyed every major human world. Billions died. My ancestors survived only by running so far that even the machines could not find them. Until now. And what do you expect me to do about it? Fight alongside us if you are willing. Against us as well if you must. But those machines will not stop with this planet. Once they finish here, they will track your ships back to consortium space. They will analyze your technology, locate your worlds, and begin the same extermination they attempted with humanity. The Devourers do not negotiate, Admiral. They do not take prisoners. They destroy. Vexthor's tactical officer spoke urgently. Admiral, the unknown fleet is changing formation. They are splitting into 3 groups. One toward the planet, one toward us, one toward the Dawnbreaker. They are engaging, Day said. Admiral, you have minutes to decide. Will you die defending your principles or live long enough to learn the truth? The first shots answered the question. Devourer weapons, beams of coherent dark matter that conventional shields could not stop, lanced through space. One struck a consortium frigate, punching through its shields like they were not there. The ship's hull melted and deformed. Atmosphere vented in brilliant streams. The crew did not have time to scream. All ships evasive maneuvers, Vexthor shouted. Return fire. Protect the Dawnbreaker. The battle began in earnest. Consortium ships scattered, their weapons firing at the Devourer vessels. The plasma cannons and missile salvos that could destroy conventional ships barely scratched the dark hulls of the machines. Point defense systems shot down the consortium missiles like toys. Admiral, their weapons are too powerful, the tactical officer reported. We have already lost 2 ships. Our weapons are ineffective. On the surface of Haven 7, Commander Hana watched the orbital battle through satellite feeds. Her people were ready, positioned in defensive installations throughout the city and surrounding areas. But if the fleet could not stop the Devourers in space, the ground battle would be brief and bloody. Launch the orbital platforms, she ordered. Full activation. What Admiral Vexthor had thought were simple defense satellites revealed their true nature. They unfolded like flowers, exposing weapon systems that used principles he did not recognize. They fired in coordinated salvos, beams of golden energy that struck the Devourer ships with devastating effect. What is that? His weapons officer gasped. Those are not standard weapons. Those are reverse-engineered Devourer weapons. Dr. Bora's voice came through on the command channel. We have been studying their technology for 3 centuries. We know how to hurt them. The golden beams punched through Devourer armor, causing internal explosions. One machine ship lost power and began drifting. Another changed course, moving to evade the orbital platforms. They could be hurt. They could be stopped. All ships concentrate fire with the colonial weapons, Vexthor ordered. Protect those platforms. The combined fire of consortium ships and human defenses began to turn the tide. The Devourers adapted quickly, adjusting their shields and tactics, but they were no longer invulnerable. The battle spread across orbit, ships maneuvering and firing in a deadly dance. Then the Devourer flagship, a vessel twice the size of any other, entered the battle. It had hung back, observing, analyzing. Now it moved forward with terrible purpose. Its weapons were different, more powerful. A single shot destroyed a consortium cruiser completely, reducing it to expanding clouds of vapor and debris. That is their command ship, Dr. Bora said over the link. The mothership controls all the others. If we can destroy it, the rest will be disorganized. How do we destroy something that powerful? Vexthor demanded. I have a weapon, Dr. Bora said. Something we built from studying the probe. A quantum disruptor that can shut down machine intelligence. But it has to be delivered to the mothership's core. Someone has to fly it there. That is suicide, Commander Hana said flatly. Yes, Dr. Bora agreed. But it is the only way. On the Dawnbreaker, still in orbit, Captain Tholvan made a decision. Prepare the ship for a suicide run. Load all our explosives into the forward hold. We will carry the disruptor into the mothership. Captain, no, Dr. Ixara protested. There must be another way. There is not, Tholvan said calmly. This is what we came here for, is it not? Discovery, understanding. Now we understand the truth. Humanity did not die. They survived. And they have been fighting alone for 4 centuries. The least we can do is stand with them at the end. But before the Dawnbreaker could move, a new voice came over all channels. This is First Officer Kryn. I am taking the disruptor. I am taking the Dawnbreaker. Captain, I am sorry. I caused this. I led the Devourers here with my transmissions. I will fix it. Kryn, stand down, Tholvan ordered. That is suicide. I know, sir. But I have been wrong about everything. The colonists are not monsters. They are heroes. They deserve to live. Please tell my family I died well. The Dawnbreaker's engines flared bright. It accelerated toward the mothership, flying through storms of weapons fire. Devourer point defense systems tracked it, firing. But Kryn's piloting was brilliant. He dodged and weaved, using every maneuver he had learned in years of training. Tholvan watched from the colony's command center, his heart's aching. Kryn, you do not have to do this. Yes, sir, I do. For what it is worth, it has been an honor serving with you. The Dawnbreaker crashed into the mothership's hull at full speed. The impact tore through armor that conventional weapons could barely scratch. The ship's momentum carried it deep into the machine vessel's interior. And then the quantum disruptor activated. The effect was immediate and catastrophic. The mothership's lights flickered and died. Internal explosions bloomed along its length as systems failed. The other Devourer ships faltered, their coordination broken. The machine intelligence that commanded them was gone. All ships, full attack, Admiral Vexthor ordered. Do not give them time to recover. The consortium fleet and colonial defenses poured fire into the disabled Devourer ships. Without their mothership's coordination, they were vulnerable. One by one, they were destroyed or disabled. The battle that had seemed hopeless minutes ago turned into a rout, but victory came with a cost. 5 consortium ships were destroyed. 3 more were heavily damaged. The orbital platforms were mostly gone, their weapons exhausted or destroyed by Devourer fire. And the Dawnbreaker was gone along with Kryn. In the command center, silence fell as the last Devourer ship was destroyed. Tholvan stared at the screen where the Dawnbreaker's signal had been. Governor Day placed a hand on his shoulder. He saved us all, Day said quietly. He will be remembered. He should not have had to die, Tholvan said bitterly. None of this should have happened. But it did, Commander Hana said. The question now is what happens next. Admiral Vexthor, are you still planning to quarantine this colony? The Admiral's face appeared on the main screen. He looked old and tired. No, Commander. I think you have earned your right to exist. The Consortium Council Chamber was the largest room Admiral Vexthor had ever stood in. Representatives from 47 species sat in curved rows that rose toward a domed ceiling, painted with stars. The chamber was designed to remind everyone present that they were part of something larger than themselves, a civilization that spanned the galaxy. Today, that civilization faced a truth that would change everything. This council will come to order, the speaker announced, her voice carrying through the chamber without amplification. The speaker was a Xanthari, a species known for their fairness and long memory. We have gathered to hear testimony regarding the discovery of a human colony on the world-designated Haven 7 and the subsequent attack by an unknown hostile force. Admiral Vexthor, you may begin. Vexthor stepped forward to the central platform. Behind him, holographic displays activated, showing images and data from the battle. Honored representatives, I stand before you to report on events that will require us to reconsider much of what we believed about the galaxy we inhabit. He told them everything. The discovery of New Scylla, the 400 years of isolation, the genetic modifications that allowed humanity to survive, the Devourers and their attack on human civilization, the battle above Haven 7, the sacrifice of First Officer Kryn. When he finished, the chamber erupted in argument. Some representatives demanded the immediate quarantine of New Scylla. Others called for aid and integration. A few questioned whether the Devourers were real or an elaborate fiction created by the colonists to justify their illegal modifications. Enough, the speaker said, her voice cutting through the noise. Governor Day of New Scylla has traveled here to address this council. We will hear what he has to say before we pass judgment. Governor Day walked to the platform. He wore simple clothes, not the formal robes that most representatives wore. He looked tired. The journey to the consortium capital had taken 3 weeks, and he had spent most of that time preparing for this moment. Honored representatives, he began, I stand before you as the leader of 2 million humans who have survived 4 centuries of hardship. We did not choose genetic modification lightly. We did not want to become different from our ancestors, but we were dying and we chose to live. He activated a display showing images of early New Scylla, walls covered in blood, children's graves, colonists fighting rippers with inadequate weapons. This was our choice, change or die. We chose change, and because of that choice, humanity still exists. A representative from the Purity Coalition stood. Your modifications make you a threat to galactic stability. Enhanced strength, enhanced speed, enhanced intelligence. These are the tools of conquest, not civilization. These are the tools of survival, Governor Day corrected. We have used them to defend our home, not to attack others. We have had no contact with any other species until Captain Tholvan arrived. We have taken nothing, threatened no one, harmed no one. Until you drew the Devourers to our space, another representative argued. Your very existence endangered the entire consortium. The Devourers were always here, Dr. Bora said, stepping forward to join Day. They have been in this galaxy for millions of years, hunting civilizations that show too much potential. Humanity was targeted 400 years ago not because of what we had done, but because of what we might become. If you think ignoring them will keep you safe, you are wrong. They are patient. They are thorough. They will come for you eventually. Captain Tholvan joined them on the platform. I have seen the evidence. I have studied the Devourer technology we recovered. Dr. Bora is correct. The machines exist and they are a threat to all biological life. The question is not whether the humans of New Scylla should be punished for surviving. The question is whether we will stand together when the Devourers come again. And they will come, a new voice said. Sung walked forward carrying a data device. I have been studying the Devourer systems. I found their communication logs. They sent a signal before they were destroyed, reporting the location of New Scylla and the presence of consortium ships. Other Devourers received that signal. They know we exist. They know we are a threat to them. They will come. The chamber fell silent. The weight of that revelation settled over everyone present. The speaker looked at Sung. How long do we have? Unknown, Sung admitted. The Devourers operate on long timescales. It could be years or decades. But they will come. They always do. Another representative stood, this one from a species that had been part of the consortium for centuries. Then we must prepare. We must unite. The humans have fought the Devourers and survived. They have technology that can hurt the machines. We need them as allies, not prisoners. The debate continued for hours. Arguments rose and fell like waves. But slowly a consensus emerged. The threat was real. The Devourers existed. And humanity's survival and resistance was valuable, not dangerous. Finally, the speaker called for a vote. All representatives will vote on the following measures. First, recognition of New Scylla as a sovereign member world of the consortium. Second, lifting of restrictions on human genetic modifications given the extreme circumstances of their situation. Third, establishment of a joint task force to study Devourer technology and prepare defenses. Fourth, authorization of resources to search for other lost human colonies. The votes came in one by one. Not all species voted in favor. The Purity Coalition abstained. But when the count was finished, the measures passed. By order of this council, the speaker announced, New Scylla is recognized as a member world. Humanity is welcomed back to the galactic community. Governor Day, your people have earned their place among us. Day felt something break inside him. Tension he had carried for months. "Thank you," he said simply. "We will not disappoint you." After the session ended, Day found himself approached by Admiral Vexthor. The old officer extended his hand in the human gesture he had learned. "Governor, I owe you an apology. When I first heard about your colony, I thought you were a threat. I was wrong. You were cautious," Day corrected. "That is not wrong. But I am glad you learned to see past your fear. As am I." Vexthor hesitated, then continued. "The Council has asked me to lead the task force on Devourer defense. I would like Commander Hana to serve as my second in command. Her experience fighting them is invaluable." "I will ask her," Day said, "but I suspect she will agree. Hana does not walk away from fights." 6 months later, Captain Tholvan stood on the bridge of a new ship, the Pathfinder. His mission was clear: search the Outer Rim for other lost human colonies. His crew included both Varan officers and human volunteers from New Scylla. Dr. Ixara had insisted on joining, fascinated by the prospect of discovering more about human survival strategies. "Captain, we are detecting a signal," the communications officer reported. "It matches the profile of human colony ship transponders." Tholvan leaned forward, excitement building. "Can you locate the source?" "Yes, sir. It is coming from a system 3 light-years away. The signal is old, repeating on automatic. But it is definitely human. Set course," Tholvan ordered. "Let us see who else survived." The system they found contained a small colony, only a few thousand humans. They had survived by hiding on a frozen moon, living underground, adapting to the cold. They were different from the people of New Scylla, modified in their own ways, but still recognizably human. When Tholvan told them about New Scylla, about the consortium, about humanity's return, they wept with joy and relief. They had thought they were alone in the universe. Now they knew they were not. Over the next year, Tholvan's expedition found 6 more human colonies. Each had survived in different ways. Each had adapted to their circumstances. Some had genetic modifications. Others had developed unusual technologies. One colony had even achieved a form of symbiosis with the native life of their world. Each colony added to the growing diversity of humanity. Each proved that humans could survive anything if they refused to give up. Back on New Scylla, Governor Day watched the city grow and change. Alien merchants now walked the streets alongside humans. Students from a dozen species studied at the university that Dr. Bora had founded. The orbital platforms had been rebuilt, stronger than before, part of a defensive network that protected not just New Scylla but the entire sector. Commander Hana, now holding the rank of general in the Joint Consortium Human Defense Force, oversaw training exercises where humans and aliens learned to fight together. The techniques developed on New Scylla were being shared throughout the consortium military. Sung had become something of a celebrity. His ability to interface with Devourer technology made him invaluable to the research effort. He divided his time between New Scylla and the consortium capital, always working, always learning, always preparing for the next attack, because everyone knew it would come. The Devourers were still out there, in the dark spaces between stars. They were patient, but they were not defeated. Someday they would return, but when they did, they would face not a scattered, desperate humanity, but a united galaxy ready to defend itself. They would face species working together, combining their strengths, sharing their knowledge. They would face the legacy of every human who had refused to accept extinction.